sixth graders, we are ready for lesson 13. This is Friday morning, and I'm excited about the end of another week. We have done our work, and you have done great, and we are very near the end of our math book. And the last couple lessons, they're just filling in with some fun things that, not necessarily anything hard, but just some fun things about math. And the lesson today that you're going to be learning about, especially for you girls, is something that I think you'll probably use. And they're teaching you how to downsize a recipe. If you have maybe your mom will give you a recipe for something to bake and you don't want to make this much and you want to half the recipe. That's what you're learning about today. It says, Grandpa and Grandma were expecting company for supper. Grandpa had just picked strawberries from the garden that morning, so Grandma got out her shortcake recipe. And I have a feeling you guys have probably all been eating strawberries. We have too. And if you notice the recipe there on your page 50, you've got flour, baking powder, salt, eggs, sugar, milk, butter, and vanilla. And it says about crushing up the strawberries, adding cream, and how to eat your shortcake. It looks like a good recipe if you guys would like to try it. But it says Grandma was expecting only 2 guests, so she needed only 4 servings of strawberry shortcake. Can you help her have the recipe so she has the right amount of dessert for the 4 people she will be serving? To have a recipe, find half of the amount of each ingredient. You may either divide each amount by 2 or multiply it by 1/2. All right, so let's see what we can do, guys, about halving this recipe. Write the amount of each ingredient in the strawberry shortcake for 4 servings. So the first thing is her flour. Number 1A is the flour. We had 2½ cups of flour. So if we want to half 2½, we need, let's do half of 2 is 1. Half of 1/2 is 1/4. 1/4 is half of 1/2. So that's your flour. Don't forget to put your label. It needs to be cups. All right, then over on 1B is our sugar. Was 1 cup. What is half of 1? And remember, it says you can divide by 2 or you can multiply by 1/2. So if you don't know what half of 1 is, you can multiply by 1/2, which would be 1/1 times 1/2 equals 1/2. Half of 1 is 1/2 cup. All right, on 2A is our baking powder, and we have 3 teaspoons of baking powder. Again, if you don't know what half of 3 is, multiply it times 1/2. So it's like 3/1 times 1/2, or you can divide it by 2. 2 into 3 goes 1 time, and you've got 1 1/2. 1 1/2 teaspoons. Again, you have 1 cup of milk. Half of 1. What did we say is half of 1? 1/2. That's right, 1/2 cup. Salt we have is 1/2 teaspoon. What did we say is a half of a half? 1/4. 1/4 teaspoon. And the butter. What is half of 1/4? Again, you can multiply times 1/2 equals 1/8. 1/8 cup of butter. You guys can do the rest. They have the strawberries and the cream. That's down where it says crush 2 cups of strawberries. What's half of 2 cups? The cream was 1 cup of cream. What's half of 1 cup? We talked about that already. So that's your new part for today. Just something fun about your recipe fill in the rest of those blanks. And on the top of page 51, number 6 and 7 is what you did yesterday. And watch the pattern. You're supposed to do the next 3 fractions. The first one was 2, 3, 4, 5 on the numerators. So keep going. And down the bottom, it looks to me like there are, how are they getting from 4 to 9? It looks like, okay, the denominators are 2 times 2 and the denominator is 4. The next fraction was 3. 3 times 3 is, the denominator is 9. The next fraction is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. The next fraction was 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So what you're going to be writing is a 6. 6 times 6 is 36. That's the denominator. And then do the 7 and the 8 the same way. And on the number 7, looks like they maybe are adding 2 to the numbers for the denominators. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 2 is 7, plus 2 is 9, plus 2 is, plus 2, keep on going like that. See if you have anything. On number 23 on page 53, you have a calculator problem. It says Earth has a circumference of about 25,000 miles. Mars has a diameter of about 4,000 miles. Find the difference in the circumferences of the 2 planets. So, they don't give the circumference of Mars. You have to find that first. Remember this, the formula for circumference is pi times diameter. Okay, and they tell you to use 3.14 for your pi times, and they give you the diameter is 4,000. So after you do this figuring, then it gives you the circumference of the Earth. You're supposed to find the difference. So once you do this, take the Earth and the circumference of this one and find the difference. What do you do when you find difference? Difference is the answer to a what problem? Subtraction problem, guys. Don't forget to subtract. All right, that is all for your lesson today, your new part. Hope it goes well for you, and I will see you next week.